But the man who would claim Richard Petty's throne had an heir of his own, burdened with similar expectations and a name to live up to.
One day, he says, if I was going to start a race team tomorrow, I would go get Jeff Gordon, whatever it takes. You know, and he says, look, cut that tape recorder off. I want to tell you something. I got a son coming along that's going to kick his butt.
He's got him loose coming down. He made the move on the inside. What a day in history. Dale Earnhardt Jr.
When Dale Jr. came on the circuit, he won a bush race. And at that time, Dale Jr. lived across from the shop, across the road from the shop in a trailer.
Yeah.
Dale Sr. said about 2 o'clock Sunday night, Teresa woke me up and there was all this music. And he says, I got up and got in the car and drove over there. And he says, I don't know how many people were over there. He said, oh, they were just rocking and rolling. I ran every one of them off, and I told that boy if he was going to be a race driver, he was going to act like a race driver, or he was not getting any more help at all from me.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. was always sensitive about his lack of education. He had sent his son to military school, but he also wanted him to adopt the work ethic that Ralph Earnhardt had imparted back in that old garage in Kannapolis.
He called and said, in typical Dale's way of doing things, hey, can you put Dale Jr. to work? I can't do anything with him. And, okay, yes, send him up here. We'll give him a job. Typical kid, needed a little direction, I think.
Hey, they really taught me everything, you know, as far as the basics from the ground. And I was able to take that back to my father and prove that I had what it took. Well, he was a superhero to me. I was in awe every time I was around him.
How about it? You put your life in your kids, and they win, and you're proud of them, and you're proud of them just growing up and being good kids.
Inside, Earnhardt was a gentle person. We would get in his pickup and ride over the farm and talk about his mother and father and his children, and great big tears rolling down his cheeks.
Guys, right on. Who's this? Who's this? I'm going down.
Strangely enough, he was somewhat of a religious person. He told me that he prayed before every race. Never that he would win, but that nobody would get hurt.
Dale Earnhardt had reached a period of contentment in his life. In the early days, he bounced checks and could barely scrape together the money for a cup of coffee. By the end of his career, he owned yachts, Lear jets, and his own company. He was a millionaire many times over and the most popular athlete in his sport.
Dale Earnhardt was beloved because so many common people who lived paycheck to paycheck had this burning thought in mind. Old Dale made it up from nothing, and maybe I can too someday.
There was little more to prove on the track, though maybe another championship to pass Richard Petty. And all the dysfunction of 2 failed marriages was a distant memory. He could now bask in the glow of his children's successes, and then there would be time to spend with his grandchildren. Before the start of the 2001 Daytona 500, Stevie Waltrip, as had become the custom, taped a card to Earnhardt's steering wheel with a proverb from the Bible. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe.
Oh! Look at Earnhardt. Sterling got into Earnhardt.
7 laps to go.
There he was with his son running for first place, and his car that he owned, driven by Michael Waltrip, and they were running in front of where Earnhardt was with his buddy. He's back there with Schrader and Sterling Marlin, and they're banging around having a good time.
3 wide behind them.
And he can sit back and look at the accomplishments of his life while going 200 miles an hour and say, I'm there. For that moment, I've always believed he had to be happy.
Kelly, Dale's daughter, got on the phone right away when they didn't go back to show the car. That's when I knew something had happened. I just, for some reason, never expected him to die in a race car. It was unreal. It's unreal.
It's hard to say what you want to say without being so emotional, and it's embarrassing to be emotional because Dale, Daddy, they weren't emotional people. But I'm a firm believer in fate and destiny, and his fate was that Dale was going to not be 50 years old because he knew we'd drag him to death when he turned 50. He didn't make it. He would have been 50 in April, and buddy, were we gonna lay it on thick. He'll never be old. That's the one thing about my daddy and Dale both.